Hi everyone, it's Dr. Hauser. We are going to go through some water quality testing. We are going to use my tap water from my kitchen, and I have all the supplies, and so you'll be able to record the results as we go through. I have my laptop over here with all the directions, which you can follow along with in your lab handout at home as well. So I'm going to start off with a chlorine test. I have all of my test tubes here. I labeled them, right? So here's my chlorine one. And to start off with, here is a glass of water from my sink in Norfolk. And so I have a plastic pipette here. I'm going to take the water, and there are graduations on the side. And I need to fill this up to 5. That looks like 5, which is great. And then I have these little tablets. And so I'm going to take the chlorine one here. I left them all on just to make sure that I could tell which one was which. And take the tape off and open up my chlorine tablet, which is already disintegrating a little bit, but I think I got it all in there. I'm going to stick the cap on, and I need to shake it. And you can see it is already changing color. It's still not quite dissolved yet. This is good if you have any aggression that you need to get out or anything like that. It is pretty well dissolved here. And then we have this color chart that we're going to compare it to. So I'm going to hold it up to the camera here, and you guys will be able to tell what color it is. Okay, so record that on your table. This is our chlorine. It's relatively dark in my opinion. Okay, so that test is done. I'll put it to the side, and we are gonna move on and look at iron. Okay, as you can read in your lab handout, iron is naturally found in groundwater. It's important for both plants and animals. Iron levels are typically about 0.2 parts per million. So we'll see what we get with my tap water sample here. Again, I'm using my plastic pipette, getting my water sample, filling it to 5 mils on my little plastic test tube here. I need to grab an iron tablet. This is where it would be nice if I had, a lab partner to help me make sure that I can get everything in. And again, I'm just trying to make sure this tablet is a little bit better put together still. So I'm just gonna drop that in, and I'm gonna shake it again to mix it to disintegrate. This one we have a little bit of a wait time. If you read the directions, we have to wait 5 minutes. So I'll set a timer for the 5 minutes, and then we can go on and start one of the other tests while we're waiting on this one. It's taking its time to dissolve. So I will continue to shake it. The next test that we will attack after the iron test will be the nitrate test. It's starting to dissolve. This one is definitely taking its time though. There we go. Okay, I just have a couple little particles left. You know, it's important when we're working in the lab to be very accurate whenever possible. Okay, I'm gonna say that this is dissolved. We're gonna set a timer for 5 minutes. And again, I have it labeled, so I'll be able to come back to it and look at it in 5 minutes, and we'll see what color it has changed. Okay, so while we're waiting the 5 minutes on the iron, we can start the nitrate test. So lab handout, it's important to monitor nitrate levels. High levels of nitrate can be harmful. Nitrate is found in fertilizers and stuff like that, which could potentially leak into a groundwater supply. So it says nitrate levels below 4 parts per million are healthy. So hopefully I don't have a lot of nitrate in my drinking water here at home. Parts per million is this sort of the standard measurement that we're using for all of these tests. Okay, so here's my nitrate tube. This one I have to cover. I'm going to cover it with some aluminum foil as soon as the reaction begins, because we want to keep it in the dark to make sure that the reaction the reaction won't work as well, is what I'm trying to say, in the presence of light. Okay, so taking the cap off, we're going to add 5 milliliters again, using my plastic pipette. That looks pretty good. I have, similar to the other tests, a nitrate tablet right here. Okay, so I'm going to drop the nitrate tablet into my tube. I'm going to wrap up the tube in tin foil so it is not going to get any light. And I need to mix this for 2 minutes. Now, as I'm recording, I can see a timer on my screen, so I'm going to go by that timer and we're going to shake this for 2 minutes. And then after I'm done shaking it for 2 minutes, we will have to wait 5 minutes. And then I will unwrap the tube and we will see if we have gotten a color change or not for nitrate. And that should work out pretty well because I have 2.5 minutes or so left on the iron. Don't see a whole lot of color change in the iron yet, but we'll wait that full 2.5 minutes. Now remember, if we were doing this in lab, you'd be working in a group and you'd have 3 or 4 friends, right? That you were, well, 2 or 3 friends, group of 3 or 4 that you'd be working with. And each group would be assigned 1 water sample to conduct these tests. So you would either get tap water that we just get out of the faucets in the lab, or you would be assigned bottled water. The bottled waters that we typically use in lab are Fiji and Dasani. Fiji water comes from a spring water source, and then Dasani water comes from a municipal water source that has then been purified and bottled. So since they're coming from slightly different locations, that means that they could have slightly different levels of nutrients and slightly different pH values as well. All we're gonna do for you to record, however, are these values from my tap water, and then you'll see in the lab handout, that's my 2 minutes. So this is now gonna sit for 5 minutes. And I have 1 minute left on the iron. So then I'll set a timer for 4 minutes. So what I was saying is that the Dasani and the Fiji water values are in the lab handout already for you, and then you can just compare them as you write down the values that we're gonna get together here for my tap water. And we just have about 30 seconds left, and then we will look at the iron results, okay? After iron, and we'll be waiting again on the nitrate. That one will take 5 minutes or so, but I'm working on my time here. I'll have 4 minutes left, so I'm just gonna reset the timer. You know I know what I'm doing, right? You guys trust me. You'll get some good results, hopefully, and hopefully I will still feel confident in drinking my tap water when we're done with this, right? Okay, so that is done. We're gonna set a timer now for 4 minutes, and here's my iron. Hopefully you can see there is a little bit of a glare there. It really didn't change, okay? I'll help you out on this one. It really did not do a whole lot. it doesn't look anything to me like the 10 or the 5 or the 1. And the 0 on this one is like a little bit of a cloudy yellow, and I don't even see that going on. Okay, so I don't have any iron in my drinking water. That's good. Okay, moving on, I have about 3 minutes left, and what I'm gonna do in the interest of time, so that you guys aren't just hanging around watching me wait for 5 minutes, is I'm going to skip over the phosphorus test momentarily and move on to the pH test, because the pH test I really don't have to wait for as I'm throwing around test tubes, excuse me. They're plastic, I won't break anything. Okay, so here's my pH tube. This one, we are not gonna use a tablet, we're gonna use a pH test strip. So I'm gonna pretty much fill this with water. And I could stick the pH strip into my cup over here as well, but this way it is in a separate container. Okay, so this is a pH strip. You've probably seen one of these before. And remember that pH ranges from 0 to 14. We would like to have a pH pretty close to neutral for anything that we are drinking. Remember that living organisms like that pH sort of between 6 and 8. So you can see it's kind of like a yellowish color, and I'm gonna stick the pH strip into the water sample, and we can do it more than once. I have a couple of pH strips. And we're gonna see what color it changes. And it should change pretty much instantaneously. I'm gonna put the lid on this so that I do not spill it all over the place. Okay. So let's see if we can get these up here for you. There's my color change for the pH. It's in the green, so I'm gonna put it next to both of the greens here and let you guys decide which one you think it looks more similar to. You can see it definitely changed from that original yellow color. If you think it's somewhere in between, you can absolutely make that estimate as well. I'll do it one more time, just because I do have another test strip here. And we have about a minute before we have to look at our nitrate. Take that one out of the tin foil. And this one, I don't think I left this one in quite as long. I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty satisfied with the pH of my drinking water. That's about where I would expect it to be, so that's good. Make sure that you write down the pH in your table. And I'm just putting those to the side, and I'll throw those out a little bit later. Okay, 7 seconds, last countdown here for nitrate, and then we'll have our phosphate test. Okay, so here it is in the tin foil. Take it out of the tin foil. Yep, I don't have to shake it or anything else. I'm just making sure. This is nitrate, okay? So there's the nitrate level. I don't think it's quite clear, right? It's changed a little bit of a color there. So maybe we do an estimate. I don't think it's quite 0, but I don't think it's quite as dark as the 5 either. Maybe somewhere in the middle. But as I said earlier, nitrate levels below 4 parts per million are healthy, and so we definitely have that. That's good. Okay, so here's our nitrate test. We have one more test to complete, which is going to be our phosphate test. Phosphate can enter the water through industrial waste like sewage treatment plants potentially. So we have the same procedure here. I have my plastic test tube. I'm going to use my pipette and fill it to the 5 ml mark. That looks about right. I have one more tablet here left on my card. It's nice that they organized them for me. Okay, so release the tablet. I'm going to drop it in. Mix until disintegrated, and then we'll have another 5-minute wait period. But then we'll have all of the results, and hopefully, as I said earlier, I can continue drinking my tap water. While we're waiting for the 5 minutes for the phosphate, we'll talk a little bit about the other activities that you're doing in the lab. This is almost disintegrated. Sorry, I'm shaking pretty hard. Let me get my timer set up here. Okay, I think that's pretty well disintegrated. Timer for 5 minutes is starting. Okay, so when we looked at the chlorine, which I still have over here, I didn't really talk about why the chlorine might be this pink. But if you look at your lab handout, we're going back here to bottom of page 8. Water for cities and towns and suburban areas like here in Hampton Roads, the tap water is cleaned and disinfected for us. And that makes sure that it's safe for us to drink. So I would expect to find chlorine in the tap water because they're trying to kill any bacteria or anything that could potentially make us sick. So drinking water typically has less than 0.5 parts per million of chlorine, and so a little bit high, right? But I would expect to find the chlorine in the tap water because of those disinfectant properties. And if you look at the data in the lab handout for the Dasani water and the Fiji water, there's no chlorine in either one of those. That would not be added to bottled water, right? Because they don't have to try to disinfect it. You might find some other things in either one of those, right? But we're not going to find chlorine. So it is not surprising, is what I'm trying to say, that the chlorine did have a result when we put that test in and we did that tablet. Again, nitrate, not a whole lot of color change. The iron really didn't do anything at all. But we would hope that we don't have lots of either nutrient in our water that is coming out of the tap, right? The goal is that it is drinkable, clean water. Okay. We got about 2.5 minutes left until this phosphate test is ready. I do see it changing a little bit of a color. You can see the phosphate test here is going to be a shade of blue. So again, if we were doing this in lab, each group would have the opportunity to test one water sample, and then we would share the results as a class, and then we would talk about it. So I've provided you with results in the lab handout for Dasani and Fiji that were collected in lab in a previous semester. And then you should be able to record the results that I am getting here in my kitchen as we are doing the tap water. And I would anticipate that the tap water out of your sink would have some similar values. The ones that I'm seeing here are really very similar to what we get at TCC on campus. The only difference might be is if one of the students lives in a more rural area and you might have well water instead of water that is coming from a municipal source like a town or a city. Well water is not always as easily drinkable without like filtering it or something like that. So that's just something to keep in mind. And a lot of times people who do have well water as their source of water, they will do nutrient tests like this, like we're conducting. You can buy these supplies like on Amazon or even a hardware store or something like that to check your water if you are concerned about any of these nutrient levels or any pollutants. Again, chlorine is relatively normal in water. We have about 50 seconds left. Don't forget, after you complete all of the lab analyses, you're going to be doing some lab water pollution testing for sharing results on our discussion board. So that's something that you're going to be doing in your kitchen, trying to contaminate some water and then clean it to kind of simulate a wastewater treatment plant. So you're going to want to make sure that you share those results on Canvas in the discussion board, and then you will also have to do the quiz, right? So there'll be a quiz on Canvas in relationship to all of the water lab activity that you will complete this week. Okay, we're down to the last 10 seconds, everybody. I know the suspense is killing you. Thanks for watching and waiting, and yeah, you might have fast forwarded through part of it, but that's okay. I understand. There we go. Okay, so we do have some color change with the phosphate. I don't think it's as dark as some of the options there, right? But it's definitely not 0. So record your phosphate value on your table, along with the nitrate, the iron, and the chlorine. And thanks for watching my little video, and I hope that lab goes great this week.